What the relationship and the differences between the body field, the matrix, and the morphic field. Could you just say a few more words about that, please?
A few more words. Well, remember that we've got three particles. All three particles are going to manufacture a field of a slightly different type. It all looks the same, but they're superimposed. Every cell has these three fields in it. They're superimposed on each other. But sometimes they won't talk, and the whole idea was say, how can we make bits of the body field talk to each other to get integration? Okay, that's what health is. It's integration between all the messages in the body. You happy now?
So they're all different aspects of the same thing.
Yeah, it happened. We discovered this because we found that there were apparent blockages in the body field. Why doesn't this work? This should match to that. And I was extremely puzzled. All of this took, a very long time to figure out, so that you could go public and say, well, I'm not going to change my mind next week. This is it. This is something permanent about the body field. And it was because we found the blockage. And what we've been telling you is the key points where you can join the body fields up again. There's special techniques. Any more?
Peter, if you think of Rupert Sheldrake's morphic fields, he talks about fields within fields within fields. Just to follow up on your question, is there any sort of hierarchy of the fields that you have been talking about here? Are some of them larger?
Yeah.
Some of them more confined, local?
Well, I think our lives are governed mostly by subconscious activity. And the books have been written about that. And if you learn how to get the subconscious to calm down a bit and become more integrated, that's going to change your life for the better.
A bit shocked at me,
Oh,
sorry.
God, why are you so late? Thank you, Harry. I'd share it with you all, there's not enough. Harry, ask him a question. Are you enjoying your mousse?
Any questions for Harry? It can't be true. You have our mentors and ideals up here, sitting down. There must be loads of questions.
I think. You were talking about first you need energy and then you get the information in. But isn't energy always carrying information? Can you separate them?
Yeah, well, you've got to answer the question, where does the information come from? You can get information from outer space, which happens. You can get bombarded with information from outside the body. And this happens to psychics and seers and inventors and people who write books and everything. They all tell you about what happens when they're discovering things that just appear. That's a lovely thing to happen. But generating information inside the body is something we do, and that's our life. And that looks like it's like the ETs. We're making little reactions inside the cortex that then go to everywhere in the body. So yeah, you've got to talk about inside information that you generate, plus outside information which you take in. And this is why we tell you to take control of your life and take control of your health. The information you need is out there. You've just got to make a little antenna to find it. Okay, you go on Google or something, but you can go direct without Google and try and get information. If you're sick and you really, really, really want to get better, I think that's what happens. answer your question? No, he didn't
Peter.
ask that.
Peter, some are talking about, on the material level, continuous creation. On information level, do you think there is continuous creation or just rearrangement of information? So can you create an information or just rearrange an information?
Harry says he knows the answer.
Please.
I mean, it goes back to the matching theory, and I mean all of reality, and or if you like, all of God or consciousness is continually expanding, and that's continually expanding because of matching. So, as a thought comes out of Peter's head or any of our heads, out to here, it'll match up with some other set of information or possibility, and that creates something a bit new as it comes back. So. As information is continually being sent out and matched up with things out there and coming back, that creates something new. And then there's that new piece of information or possibility that was a combination, or it was a match with something else previously. And I think that's what all of these things are. Well, I think that's what reality, the universe, is expanding over time. It's this continual matching process, and that expands all the possibilities.
Wow, I never thought of that.
I know.
Incredible.
That's my one.
You should have told me before.
I would like to say something about information. Information is also a process of oscillation. So you need an emitter of the information that must oscillate because it had to store the information before. And it's only possible by oscillating. And the receiver of the information must also be an oscillator because it has to store the information, and that is what we call learning. And the changing of information is, a pattern in space between two oscillators, and this is what we call matching, I think.
Thank you. It's a wonderful way of looking at learning. You could say to your kids, look, put your arms out now, we're going to learn something, we're going to store it in your matrix. There's a lot of stuff we're telling you that isn't like anything you ever heard before. It's maybe going to cause conflict or worry in your head, but you don't need to worry. Just do some deep breaths, and it often takes 2 or 3 years to absorb one of these ideas so that you really understand it enough to use it. So, okay, next year I'm going to have the same lecture.
That's something that will never happen in this company. Has anyone else got a question?
They're all too stunned, they can't.
Peter, you said liberator and transcell focus was put into one. Peter said liberator and transcell focus was put into one in pharmaceutical.
Yeah, we had Liberator on its own, and we had to use it with transcell focus for realization, that is to get enlightened, to see things about the world and yourself, which is the key to healing, isn't it? And then Harry said, no, we can't have any more in pharmaceuticals, so we put, well, we've got 58 or 60, or it's just it's too many. So we put transcell focus and the other one into the same formula because that's the one you need for realization. That is, to go from your morphic field to your matrix, where the conscious information, subconscious to conscious. And the idea was to stop you being ruled by your subconscious fears and drives, and be more conscious of what's really happening. You see, people think something's happening that isn't happening, and you can't convince them. That's because of the subconscious is so strong. So yeah, it will be available as a bottle.
There's a question here. You can ask the question, John. Okay. Ich spreche in Deutsch, es wird aber gleich übersetzt. Meine Frage ist, ich bin ein bisschen verwirrt. Der Liberator, haben Sie gesagt, ist gut für Depression. Und später haben Sie gesagt, man sollte es nicht bei Menschen anwenden, die in einer schlechten Gemütsverfassung sind.
Yeah, the question is that she's a little confused about the usage of the Liberator. You said that we could use the Liberator for depression, but later on you said don't use the Liberator if the patient is very upset using drugs or something like that.
Yeah. If you just got normal depression like every day, you know, day after day, this is your life. Yeah, Liberator's all right. I'm talking about medically diagnosable clinical depression. Liberator might cause some reactions. So you need to go deeper, and when you go deeper, you use Liberator and ESR. But if you go even deeper, which you might have to, you do Liberator, ESR, and then EI 13, 14, 15, 16. It's just a question of progression of the treatment.
But it's simpler than that.
Thank God. Thanks, Harry.
But everything you just said is built into Provision anyway.
Oh, right.
So when you go to that emotion screen and the quadrant that's on red, it'll say the Liberator and the right matrix regulator, and there's also one of the quadrants that's 13 to 16. And if it's red, then you take it, and if it's not, you don't. So you don't really need to note it down or think about it, really.
So I was really talking to people who've got nests between now and when we get the new machine.
No, it's out there. It's out there now.
It's out there. So for Provision, you can still do nearly all of it.
Anyone else?
Are they all going to upgrade to Provision as soon as they can or something?
Yeah, they've all got it.
They've all got it? I haven't got it.
Well, you've got it.
Are there any other questions? Are you all dying for lunch? No? There's one here.
I'm not a medical person, so I'm wondering, where does the fascia come in? You know, as in myofascial massage, and the fascia is the sort of connective tissue, so I'm wondering, is that treated with the muscle driver, or which EIs would it be treated with? Does it come into, where does it fit in?
You can give the eye health answer. All right.
I mean, that's exactly what the eye health has been designed to do, so you can just treat directly wherever any of that myofascial problems are, and then there's a setting in it of the, I don't know if Peter talked to you about the matrix of interconnective tissue going over, but there's a global scaling frequency that does the matrix, so there's a setting in the eye health, and you treat that through the eye health.
According to the theory I just talked about, you could give EI 1, 2, 3, 4. That's for all the muscles and fascia, all at once, over the whole body. That's just a general treatment. And the eye health is a very specific treatment. So that's the idea. You do general before you do specific.
Yeah, and, I mean, in the eye, I don't know if I explained it before, but the idea of the eye health is to give a focused treatment while you're in session with the patient, and then you carry on with the pharmaceutical program as per what Peter's been lecturing over the rest of the month.
That's a good idea. It's assumed as English trained osteopaths are big on muscle fascia. And yeah, it's where an awful lot of stuff happens. But it's all included in the muscles generally. We've done tests with muscle fascia, and that's where it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, sand or consciousness or the universe, it's like a great fractal with the global scaling things. As that matching continues, I think that's what the global scaling great fractal is, and it just keeps on going, getting bigger and bigger and more complicated over time. But that's why something so really, really simple ends up with all this wonderful reality we're in. That just occurred. Anyway, next question.
Oh.
I'm a classical homeopath for 20 years. And what I wonder is we was talking about the heart and grief and so on, and I can see that it's matched perfectly with Ignatia, for instance, that has to do with the breathing and everything. And how would that infect the scanning and the reading and so on if I give that remedy together with the infoceuticals?
That's fine. The homeopathic things are inside the body field. It's part of the story, that's for sure. And what I find is that the homeopathic message is often a smaller message. Except, you know, if you get a big polycrest, a big constitutional has a very broad effect. Well, the eye health and the pro health are really very broad in their effect. They're all huge because that's the problem. People are so sick. There's so many chemicals in the environment. It's just so complex. You wonder where to start. And that's why we've ended up with very broad remedies. If you add something to it, that's fine. No, I don't see any problem. Surely somebody must be hungry. Come on. Getting hungry.
Surely Peter is hungry.
You've been listening.
Okay, shall we break up for lunch? Thank you very much for your attention. Give them a big hand.